And away we go. Alright, let's see what me, Risk, or Eric have sent in the group chat since the last time I recorded an episode for whatever podcast I was recording. So firstly, let me just close this for a second. Alright, I've sent a YouTube short. The title reads, Before social media, the movie hype looked like this. And the video itself goes more into the hype of a very popular movie from a very popular franchise. So I'll just play that for you now. Watch this.
The Phantom Menace released in 1999, which means that Star Wars fans had to wait 16 years for a new movie since Return of the Jedi released in 1983. So these people that were huge fans of Star Wars had to wait 16 years for a major movie to be released, and that's why they were just so excited for this. You can see in this video, the people that first get in can't even believe their eyes, and then when all these people get into the theater, they are playing around with each other, all have lightsabers. It's just a great scene, and this was obviously before social media, before streaming, before any of that. So fans would show up and camp out outside of movie theaters for like a few days just for the chance to get to see this movie. And I was even reading where people showed up to watch other movies just to watch the trailer for this movie, The Phantom Menace, and then they would just leave if they weren't interested in the movie that was actually showing. They would pay the fee just to get into the theater to watch the trailer and then leave. It was just a crazy time, and this movie became one of the highest grossing movies in 1999.
Wow, what a time to be alive. Also very unrelated. I just hate it when when notifications on your phone just interrupts midway through the audio. Anyway, that's just me, and it could be worse. It's not end of the world. So back to the video about the hype around Star Wars, or a very famous movie that a lot of people want to watch. Yeah, I miss those days. Now, of course, we can't go back to we could try to replicate the energy that was that was there in the 2000s and the 90s. Yet, due to the rise of smartphones, technology, and more people accessing the internet, and of course, I know I always bang on about this every now and then. Social media platforms being used by more and more people every day, and how fast the information gets spread across to other users and other people. It'd be very rare, not just now, but in the next few years, to see such hype for any movie to be replicated as what's been shown when The Phantom Menace had released in films, when Star Wars fans had to wait 16 years for another Star Wars film. And I get the hype. The thing is, now with the internet, social media, anyone can write anything, and corporations, businesses, institutions, or whatever entity that exists, if there's enough people demanding a new film, a new project, or something innovative, there is no excuse now for institutions, businesses, corporations to just blindly ignore these people. They can use social media to address to the people directly and get some questions and answer to comments by said people. There is a saying, not that it exists yet, but it is something that feels true to me. Limitation in anything sparks creativity. Now, I'm not saying that the hype for Star Wars Phantom Menace in 1999 is a great example of getting creative hype around its movie, because not many people have access to the internet at the time. What I'm saying is there should be some kind of light limitation in most things. I'm not talking about limiting information getting across. There has to be ways that we're not just overly reliant on using our phones, getting information from a particular platform. It's important that we diversify where we get our information and diversify our habits and our hobbies. So in the event that one thing is not working out, or whatever that thing is doesn't seem to be continuing anytime soon, you have other things to fall back on and pursue when whatever it is you did before won't come back either for a very long time or probably never again. That's just me, and I'm not sure how exactly this idea of mine about limiting what we do and how we consume would even work or be applied practically. It is at least worth thinking about what life was like in the before times and how could we apply the good moments into the future. Because that's what we all want. And I don't blame anyone for not wanting, and I don't blame people for wanting that. Nor would I blame people for not wanting that either. However, I would understand more if people want to find the good things in life. And that's okay. I agree with that. Alright. Next, I had to screen record a Instagram reel because for some reason when I tried to download that video on my iPad, it wouldn't allow me. For some reason, it wouldn't allow me, so I had to screen record it, and well, the Instagram reel in question is about a woman that works for a ice hockey team in the UK, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'll just play the audio and just make of that video as you will.
I read a BBC News article and I'm a little bit disappointed. I originally said no to the journalist when she reached out because I didn't want another Financial Times situation. However, she reassured me that that's not the kind of angle she was going for, and maybe I'm naive. I thought it was an opportunity to talk about UK hockey. When I got on the phone with her, it was very clear that she did not know much about UK hockey at all. We spent a lot of time talking about that. I spent a lot of time talking to her about women's hockey. I also spent a lot of time talking about the fact that if someone finds hockey through TV or a book and then they get into the game, they love the game, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Surprise, surprise. Literally none of that made it in. It's mainly talking about book talk and content creators from that sphere, which there's nothing wrong with that. I absolutely love reading. However, the thing that annoyed me the most is that I'm completely misquoted in it. Maybe she misunderstood me or I didn't make myself clear enough, but in this piece it says that I said the reason people have a fascination with hockey in the UK is because they didn't grow up playing it. How does that make sense when I work for a club that has an under-16s division? None of the stuff that I spoke about hockey and empowering women, any of that stuff made it in. So let's just consider this my official resignation from ever talking to journalists about UK hockey, because clearly no one wants to actually cover it for what it is. People want it to fit a certain narrative, and I think I'm just going to have to make my peace with that.
Dang, I feel sorry for her. If I was being asked to discuss something that I have so much knowledge about by a journalist, for a news broadcaster, and whatever I've said didn't make it through, yeah, I'd be disappointed too. However, what is really frustrating, and this could apply for any broadcaster, news outlets are going to have their own way of telling the story at hand. That's not to say that broadcasters are outright lying about what they're reporting. They have their own spin, they have their own ways of telling the story or the news that's happening. And unfortunately, this woman talking about ice hockey in the UK, she had been unfortunate to be one of those victims of having her perspective and her experience to be misrepresented or even outright misled to some extent entirely. That is not the same as outright lying that, oh, people don't do this and people don't do that. It's obvious that there is a growing interest for ice hockey in the UK, especially for women. The point is, even when you tell the story, and regardless of if reporters or journalists care much about the story that they're reporting, and even how much of the story they know, again, news outlets, broadcasters, and newspapers, they're going to have their own way of telling the story. And how they tell the story is going to have an impact on how viewers and readers that pay attention to what stories come out of said news broadcaster, outlet, or newspaper, that will make an impact on those people that look at the story and get an idea, oh, if that's the case, then, okay, not bad. Or if at one point a news outlet says that the reason why people don't pay attention or people aren't interested in this sport is because there wasn't much access to begin with. From that particular part of that story, viewers would be like, oh, if there's not many people paying attention, why now are they doing it? Or maybe they would say, well, it's a good thing they're pay attention to it now and they're actually doing something. Are they? Are they though? So I will end off with the following. I'll keep it brief as much as I can. Now, I'm not now what situation did this woman have with the Financial Times? Honestly, I don't know. Yet, given how she said the Financial Times situation, I'd assume it didn't go so well for her. So that's why she was even reluctant to even talk to the BBC to begin with. And that is saying a lot. That is saying so much. So I'll conclude with this story. I will conclude with the video I've seen on Instagram. Now, given what this woman has been through, that's not to say you shouldn't express your opinions. You shouldn't you shouldn't tell your experience about what you're doing. And this is not to say that you don't have to always be open about what you have done in your life. What I'm saying is, if you're ever wanting to discuss something with someone that either may not know much about you, may not know much about the work that you're doing, or possibly may not know much about even know much about the history of whatever these people are wanting to talk to you about. You got to be not cautious or careful, although that is important as well. You also have to be precise and clear with the words that you're expressing to these people. So it is hard to not just ignore the information in question, it is also hard to make such nonsense or misrepresentation of said information that's been given to these people. And B, if you do feel like there is going to be a chance that there is going to be misrepresentation of your views, your experience, or or even if everything that you said or done isn't even reported or even discussed at any point whatsoever, then just like what this woman has done, the video I just played a few minutes ago, call it out for what it is. Now, I'm not saying that this news outlet is evil, that I'll give a damn. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that you should start a riot. You just got to start. You just got to stand firm with what you believe, what you experience, and what understanding you have of the world. And just after listening, this woman had talked about ice hockey in the UK. It has given me thoughts about how would I approach with discussing with journalists or reporters on anything. And again, I'm not saying that, oh, journalists and reporters are evil and careless. No, I'm not wanting to have that kind of mindset. I'm just preparing myself and having the mindset of trying to be clear, precise, and maybe even question the reporters and journalists about what even they're asking me in the first place. Try to get an understanding of what they're saying before I give an understanding of what I'm wanting to project. Because again, like the woman discussing about ice hockey in the UK with the BBC, whoever reporter or editors, journalists that was talking to her about ice hockey, they said, we don't know much about ice hockey. in the UK, so that's why we're coming to you, because we want to get an understanding. And whilst unfortunately the reception didn't come out as what this woman had hoped, there's always going to be something new to talk about. So when you're not getting asked by journalists or reporters or anyone with a huge audience to talk about what information you have on anything, there's no harm in taking it into your own hands to talk about that yourself. And to use that momentum, if ever, to be talked or be approached by individuals with big audiences to expand further on the experiences that you have talking about discussions with people of sorts and influence, and talk about what people should know about what you're talking about, and maybe how to get involved in the space in which you're talking about. So yeah, it's not end of the world with what's going on with ice hockey in the United Kingdom, or just ice hockey in general. It is the start of raising awareness of particular discussions that are niche, or even discussions that a handful of people know about, however, not many people know about it enough, or not many people enough know about it. And yeah, that is all of the videos that's been sent into the podcast group chat since the last time I recorded a podcast episode. With that all being said, let's get right into the news. NVIDIA enters Windows laptop market, taking on Intel and AMD. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang officially unveiled the RTX Spark Superchip, an ARM-based consumer processor designed to run advanced autonomous AI agents locally on personal computers without relying on cloud computing. Developed in partnership with MediaTek and manufactured on TSMC's 3nm node, the hardware fuses a 20-core NVIDIA Grace CPU with a Blackwell architecture GPU featuring 6,144 CUDA cores and up to 128 gigabytes of unified memory. The platform targets a premium market segment of developers, creators, and gamers, boasting the performance power to render massive 90GB 3D scenes, edit 12K video, and run AAA video games at 1440p resolution, exceeding 100 frames per second. NVIDIA partnered with Microsoft to integrate a specialized software layer called OpenShell, which allows Windows 11 users to build and run private AI assistants locally while establishing strict security policies to mask personal data before any cloud interaction. The new chips will debut this autumn in a fresh lineup of slim, power-efficient Windows laptops and desktops from major industry manufacturers, including ASUS, Dell, HP, Lenovo, MSI, and Microsoft's own Surface brand. Well, whilst I don't understand half of what's been said, I know that 128 gigabytes of unified memory is quite a big deal. Oh, but what about iPhones? 1 terabyte? What? Yeah, 1 terabyte of what? 1 terabyte of what? Do you even know what you're talking about? Because people at NVIDIA know what they're talking about. Surely they won't. Surely whoever's reporting on this wouldn't have mentioned it if it wasn't that big of a deal to begin with, compared to other technology. So yeah. So, well, this is a big deal for NVIDIA. I'm not surprised, because I know that NVIDIA, given its, well, not just the current market value of the company, also I've watched a couple of YouTube videos of test videos and animations of NVIDIA technology in the 2000s and the 90s, of what technology NVIDIA wanted to showcase when they produced early technology from the 90s and 2000s. And even in those decades, the technology that NVIDIA produced and showcased to people during those decades, it looks very good. Even by today's standards, it's decent for 90s and 2000s NVIDIA technology to be at a decent standard today, given the technology NVIDIA is showcasing now. Surely, in the next 2 decades at most, the capabilities of said technology will also be at a decent standard 2 decades from now. That's how well NVIDIA technology works. I'm not glazing it, I'm not overrating it. It's incredible that NVIDIA had made such technology so well for the last few decades. Certainly in the many years ago, even a couple decades worth of technology, still looks quite good today, although not so necessary now, because NVIDIA has now put out new technology which is at a much higher caliber. Even 90s and 2000 NVIDIA processors, computer chips, and other technology can work just as well today, like it did all those years ago. New evidence reveals a millennium-old dingo was ritually buried and cared for in Australia. Researchers published a study in Australian archaeology detailing a 1,000-year-old dingo burial in Kinchega National Park, where the male animal, Garley, was buried in a riverside midden by Barkindji ancestors. Lead author Dr. Locus Quinolus noted the animal's healed injuries at advanced age indicate it lived a long life alongside people, confirming Indigenous Australians formed deep bonds with dingoes long before European arrivals. Maintained for centuries, the burial site features a feeding ritual that honored the dingo as an ancestor, with archaeologists reporting the site was treated with care, reflecting the animal's esteemed position. Data from the study reveals dingoes were tamed and lived alongside people as part of the community, and project lead Dr. Amy Way stated the discovery provides new details on the depth of that relationship between Burkinji and dingoes. Studies of the Kurakurang archaeological site south of Sydney reinforced these findings, revealing dingoes were buried alongside humans as far back as 2,000 years ago, underscoring that long-standing bonds existed prior to European colonization. Wow. Who knew dingoes could have lived a lot longer than most animals? Not all animals, however, most of them, for sure. And I don't know why, and this is completely unrelated, I'm thinking of this one guy that, back when I was having guests on this podcast, I'm not sure why it bothers me so much. Then again, I'm bothered by most things, however, I don't get myself sometimes. I'm handling things a lot better now than years before, but yeah, I don't know why what I'm thinking of bothers me so much. So, the dingo, very, very interesting, and quite impressive too. I wonder if there are any dingoes still around. I'd assume there would be. If not, then what a shame. So yeah, the more you know, I guess. The more you know. Magnitude 5.9 earthquake strikes central Chile, shaking Santiago. A magnitude 6.0 earthquake, or 5.9, either way, struck off the coast of central Chile on Sunday, according to the United States Geological Survey, USGS. The earthquake occurred at 9:34 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time and was centered around 33 kilometers, 20 miles northwest of the port city of Valparaiso, the USGS said. The quake was recorded at a depth of 25 kilometers, 15.5 miles. There were no immediate reports of casualties or significant damage following the tremor. Okay, that's good to hear. And that's the story. That's literally the story. There's nothing else that's been said. So that's great to hear that no one was injured and no one has lost their lives during this earthquake. I've heard so much about Chile and their earthquakes, and it's becoming it's part of normal life, just dealing with earthquakes for people in Chile. So, of course, I know people in Chile know how to handle these earthquakes when they do come about. And certainly for decades, there has been research in Chile in regards to when you build new homes and businesses, is the structural integrity also capable of withstanding this magnitude of earthquake? And if the answer is yes, then yes, go ahead. It may be expensive, but it'll be worth it in the end. It will be worth saving a lot of money from the damages from the earthquake, which it certainly is worth it. Also, when the earthquake happened, just reading it now, 9:34 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Local time in Chile, it was 4:34 p.m. when that earthquake struck, so somewhere in the afternoon, I guess. Again, great to hear that no one in Chile was injured at all, and everyone is still alive and living life. That's great to hear. And of course, Japan also has also experienced earthquakes as well. Although not sure if it's as often as Chile, maybe less. And when an earthquake do happen in Japan, actually, yeah, Japan would already know how to handle earthquakes. They're smart enough to prepare themselves for the worst case scenarios. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about Japan. They know how to handle natural disasters and extreme weather. KSI leaves the Sidemen after 13 years to focus on health. On Sunday, May 31st, 2026, British YouTuber star KSI announced his departure from the Sidemen, the seven-member collective he co-founded in 2013. In an emotional 12-minute video explaining the painful exit, KSI cited a need to prioritize his health and work-life balance, stating he felt like he had been running at full speed at 100 miles per hour. The Sidemen, which includes members Simon Minter, Josh Bradley, Vikram Bond, Toby Brown, Ethan Payne, and Harry Lewis, boasts over 140 million collective YouTube subscribers. An insider told The Sun there is not an atom of bad feeling, noting both parties maintain busy schedules despite KSI's appearance in Saturday's Britain's Got Talent finale. Although leaving group videos, the insider suggests members may collaborate again in the future, marking a significant transition after 13 years with the Sidemen. Yeah, I've actually heard about this when I was watching the news with my dad, and my dad asked, "Uh, what are they talking about?" And I was talking to my dad about who KSI is and what the Sidemen are and how big of a collective group they are on YouTube, and yeah, I haven't said much. I know I just gave him a brief description. I was like, oh, okay, okay. So yeah, it'd be not. It won't be interesting. However, it will be. It will certainly feel different with the Sidemen not having KSI being in all of their videos all the time. Of course, if KSI has chosen to leave to focus on his health, then fair enough. I respect that. That is understandable. I don't believe there's anything to argue with that. Honestly, why would they? But yeah, fair enough. Hopefully KSI continues to do well after his departure. And maybe someday, of course, certainly, they will collaborate again with other members and collectives. And who knows, maybe this could be the start of something new that we may not know until it actually happens. Only time will shall tell only time will tell. And that is it for the episode.